Hey everyone, and welcome to my patch 11.5 Nico Fabled Guide. In this video, we're going to be going over everything it is to play this comp and when you should be playing it. So let's go ahead and take a jump into this. So what is Fabled Nico? Well, it is a comp that is built around the raw stats of Fabled and Mystic, along with the Vanguard stats being a very important part of that, right? So we're looking to play some sort of 4 Mystics, 4 Vanguard, maybe 2 Mystics, 6 Vanguard, depending on what the lobby calls for. But the real strength of the units comes from Fabled, which says that their spells get an additional part if you have all 3 of the parts together. So obviously, the core of the comp is Nico, Nautilus, Cho'Gath. But I would say along with that, we have the other 2 Vanguards that are incredibly strong right now in Aatrox and Sejuani. These guys should almost always find their way into your final comp. They're really just the best that you can be doing. But really, the 4th Vanguard you can be playing is whoever you had laying around, right? So if you had made a Garen 2, Wukong 2, that's fine. If you found an Ornn, that could be your 4th Vanguard. Really just looking for those raw amount of stats. Next, we're going to start talking about these Mystics. What Mystic do you want to play, and how do you pick them? So, with this, the Mystics that I like to play with this are going to be kind of in order. Zillion's my favorite to play, but you don't always find him. Next would be Jaina, then would be Yuumi, right? So these are kind of the order that you're going to want to play them in, but we can always play whatever in that spot. The 4th Vanguard, we're just going to go ahead and say is Braum for right now, just to give you an idea of what this comp will look like. Now, on to the Chosens with this comp. You're going to have a lot of choices with what Chosen you're playing. I would say end all be all, Nico is the best Chosen you can have for this comp. Whether it's Fabled or Mystic, she's going to be really strong. I would say I like Mystic Nico way better. I think on the scale of it, I would go with Mystic Nico, either Aatrox, Sejuani, or Nautilus if they're Chosen Vanguard, and then we can go with Cho'Gath, Nico, or Nautilus if they are chosen Fabled. Along with that, these are kind of the order that I'd pick my Chosens in. Is that I really care about Mystic Chosen, and that's why this is on top. Then we got the Vanguard Chosens. Then we got the Fabled Chosen. Not a huge fan of Fabled Chosen, because the problem is that all 3 of these units are really strong, and playing that 4th Fable doesn't really get you a whole lot extra. You can definitely play it, and at that point you just drop Cho'Gath and play whatever 4th Mystic, 4th Vanguard you want to play. But making sure that you have 4 Mystic and 4 Vanguard is really important in this comp, because the raw stats that you get, right now you're adding 250 armor to your whole front line. So these guys right here are all going to get extra 250 armor, plus they're getting extra 145 worth of magic resist. If you look, like, Dragon's Claw is only 50 magic resist. Like, this is a ton of magic resist here, and a ton of armor. So this front line's never gonna die. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the comp itself. You're gonna want Nico as your primary carry for this comp, just most of the damage. Now, if we look at it, what are the items that you most want for Nico? Well, if we go here and we look up Nico, we can see the most popular items on Nico are going to be Jeweled Gauntlet, Guardian's Angel, Hextech Gunblade, with some of the other ones being Hand of Justice, Infinity Edge to make sure that she always crits with Jeweled Gauntlet, Vanguard Spat, which is always going to be strong on her, Death Cap, Blue Buff. These are items that you're going to want to put on here. The problem is that these items kind of line up with another carry that's pretty popular to play right now. So if we look at Aurelion Soul, we can see the items that he wants, Jeweled Gauntlet, Hextech Gunblade, GA, Hand of Justice, Blue Buff, Rabadons, these are the same item pool that you want on Nico. So how do we make that decision on whether I'm playing Asol or I'm playing Nico? Well, you could look at it as like, okay, what are the units I'm gonna hit, right? But they use different units, and you kind of have to be prepping for it a little before you get to your roll down spot, right? So a good way I like to think about it is I think of a comp like Fabled Mystic as a low roll comp. And what that means is that there are two types of late game comps you can play. You can play a low roll comp or a high roll comp. A low roll comp is, let's say your early game, stage 2 and stage 3 was really weak and you took a lot of damage, right? You're going into stage 4 and you maybe have like 60, 50 health already, and you need to really focus up and like pick a comp that's going to carry you into stage 5, maybe even stage 6, right? You've low rolled that early game. You've taken a lot of damage and you have to roll earlier to get this comp. In which case, I would play Nico, because Nico is a much cheaper comp than the Aurelian Souls. So, you can get away with rolling at 7 with Nico comps. You like the Chosens with Nico comps at 7. There's a lot of pros for rolling at 7 in this comp that aren't there for Aurelian Soul. I would say Aurelian Soul comps, like Dragon Soul, are very high roll comps, where you kind of already have to be winning the early game, and then you snowball that advantage into the late game, where you pick up a lot of expensive units. If you look at like a Dragon Soul Asol patch, or Dragon Soul Asol comp, all these units, Asol, Swain, Morgana, Sejuani, these are expensive units that you have to pick up, and they're not always readily available for you to be using. So we really want to make sure that we're deciding, okay, I have these items. I have a Jeweled Gauntlet. I have a Hextech. I can make a GA. I have a Hand of Justice. I can make a Death Cap. You're between Nico and Asol, and you gotta then look and say, how's my board? Am I weak now? Can I greed it to play an Aurelian Soul comp? Or am I gonna die before then, and I need to play a Nico comp now to stabilize earlier? So that's what you should be thinking about in your games, as these, are you playing a Nico low roll comp? And if you played weak early game, you're gonna want to make sure that your stage 4, you're rolling for that Nico. So let's go ahead and talk about early game and what we're playing. If we look at these items, we're going to want to make sure that we have a unit that carries these items particularly well. So if we think about that, these are going to be a lot of our AP mages, right? So we have TF, he's going to hold Nico items pretty well. We have Vladimir, he's going to hold the items pretty well. Even Diana can hold like Hextech pretty well, GA pretty well, Hand of Justice pretty well. Definitely Nasus. Definitely Nasus is going to be able to hold these items super well, right? And we want to make these items for these units early game, right? We're not going into the early game thinking, hey, I'm going to play Nico, but if I have like a Nasus chosen early game, and I want to make a Jeweled Gauntlet on him, and then come stage 4, I'm looking pretty weak, we're going to make sure that we're looking into pivoting into this Nico comp, right? So the early game is always the same. We're just playing our strongest board and whatever units we have with it. Now, into the mid game, we're really like looking at how we're doing, right? So stage 3 is really when I'm going to make that decision on whether or not I'm playing a Aurelian Soul comp or a Nico comp, right? If I'm weak going into stage 3 and I know that's what I want to play into, is maybe I lost streak all through stage 2 and I need to power level to 7 and then roll at 7, I've made that decision somewhere early on in stage 3. And so your mid game should really be like keying in that this is the comp you want to play and getting ready for it, right? So we're going to start making items for those units to start saving on life, right? Vladimir is an incredibly strong 2-cost unit right now that holds Nico items incredibly well, and you can just sell them later because you don't care about them in the final comp. We're going to make that decision. Along with that in the mid game, there are units that you're going to want to make sure you're picking up, right? So making sure that you have the Jaina so you can have the 2 Mystic buff, and making sure that you have good frontline vanguards that you can replace later with Sejuani and Aatrox, because you might not have Sejuani and Aatrox for a little bit, right? So like a Chosen Garen can go a long way in saving you a lot of life, and he kind of slots into the comp while you're still looking for that Sejuani or Aatrox in your comp. As for the late game, it's going to look something a little like this, where we have the 4 Vanguard frontline. And assuming that you have no Chosen at this point, it's going to be a little hard, because it's going to look different depending on each Chosen that you've picked up, right? So it's going to look different for each Chosen that you've picked up, right? So in this spot, like, we have 3, 5, 6, 7 units. This is going to be our level 7 board a lot of the time, right? But let's say we have like a Chosen Mystic, right? We're probably going to want to be finding room to go to 8 to make sure that we can play another Mystic like Zillion or Yuumi, right? And at that point, we're playing the 4 Vanguard, 4 Mystic. Let's say we had a Chosen Vanguard, and we can go ahead and drop out this Braum, and now we're going to want to make sure that we're playing all of these, right? So our board would look a little something like this. And if we had a Chosen Fabled, we'd probably be dropping out this Cho'Gath to play another Vanguard like Braum. And this is what our board would be looking like depending on what Chosens we've hit in the game. Now, really, we're going to be focusing on a couple of things. Our big thing here is making sure that we've itemized well for Neeko, but we also want to make sure that we're itemizing well for Nautilus. So, with Nautilus is actually a really important carry in this, because when Nautilus has that Fabled buff, he gets a huge buff with these tank items. He's going to be a lot stronger, right? So when he has the Fabled buff, he gets a shield that protects him from oncoming damage, right? So his survivability goes through the roof. So items like Sunfire Cape and Bramble Vest go a long way. Even Titan Resolve goes a long way in this comp, right? So this is what you're literally looking to make like tank items for Nautilus, and they're just as important as AP items for Neeko. Finally, your positioning is going to depend, right? There's a couple of main things that you're worried about in a Neeko comp. The first unit that you're really worried about is Aatrox, right? Him pulling your Neeko in, stunning her, that's going to be an issue. So making sure that you have, let's say there's an enemy Aatrox on the left side, right, or on the opposite. So he's going to be on your right side right here. We want to make sure that our other Mystics that aren't Neeko are positioned to body block for her, right? So we have the Yuumi with the Neeko like this, and then we have the Jaina. And this is going to make sure that when Aatrox pulls, he pulls over the Jaina and the Yuumi, and the Neeko can still deal damage. A great tech unit you can put in is Azir. The Azir Sand Soldiers do the same exact thing, where you can position it like this, or you can position it like this, and then they can almost never pull your Neeko, because no matter where he is, he either pulls these two, or if he's on this side, he'll pull these two. So next is making sure that he doesn't get, your Neeko doesn't get one-shot by someone like Aurelion Sol. So making sure that if Aurelion Sol is on this side, making sure that your Neeko is more centered, and that there is someone like Jaina to take the shot here, right? Because the Jaina is going to be able to take a couple of Aurelion Sol shots, but so will the Neeko. But we want to make sure that the Neeko is not taking like 3 or 4 shots in a row, because that will take her out, and we need her alive for the damage. So when we position like this, we make sure to buy our Neeko a lot more time to ult off. Let's see. Good ones like Talon. Talon can one-shot our Neeko if we're not careful about it. If we know that there's a Talon on the board, we can go ahead and bunch up our units like this, just to make sure that if the Talon jumps, he gets taunted by the Shen, and then he gets ulted stunned by the Nautilus. This buys our Nico a ton of time to deal with him. So when we're positioning for this, we want to make sure that if a Talon's on this side, he jumps here. He's now stunned by the Shen, and now the Jaina's kind of be the first bait for this. And we're just buying time for Nico to deal as much damage in the fight as she can. Other notables, Tryndamere spins to the farthest unit. If you just have it positioned like this, and the Tryndamere is on this side, he'll spin to the Jaina, he'll miss the Nico. If he's positioned like this, he'll spin to the Nico. So making sure that your Nico is on the same side as the Tryndamere, and that the Jaina is far away from him, can mean that your Nico has a ton of time to deal with it. And that's really the big parts of playing Fabled Mystic positioning.